Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has welcomed Anthony Albanese at his old school in Delaware. The Quad Summit is now underway, involving President Biden, our PM, and the leaders of India and Japan. Let's head to Sky News chief anchor Kieran Gilbert, who is in Delaware. Kieran, now you have just spoken and asked a question to Joe Biden. What did he say?
Yeah, I did. There was what's known as the family photo, Tim, and you'll see behind us, this is Archmere Academy. This is the school Joe Biden went to as a young man. 3 of his children came here as well, and the 4 leaders gathered on the steps. Joe Biden hosting Prime Minister Albanese, Prime Minister Kishida of Japan, and Prime Minister Modi of India. And as they were standing there, they were about to wrap up, and I yelled out to Mr. Biden, "Will the Quad survive beyond November?" And he said, he asked me to clarify, will what survive? And I said, the Quad, will it survive? And he said, it will survive way beyond November, way beyond, is what he said. And the point here, Tim, the reason why I asked that question is, with Donald Trump going to win, according to many, certainly it's a neck-and-neck race right now, it's a toss of the coin, he could win. What position will he take when it comes to the Quad? He hasn't always been sold on traditional alliances. You'll remember, Tim, and our viewers will remember that Donald Trump threatened to pull out of NATO at one point as well, unless the Europeans stumped up more. So I thought it was a pertinent question to put to President Biden, as he is trying to ensure the Quad and his foreign policy approach lasts beyond his presidency, basically to future-proof their foreign policy, Tim.
Also, it would have to be significant for his legacy, wouldn't it, Kieran? Because we know that there is a finish line now to his presidency.
Indeed, and in his opening remarks to the Quad Summit, he said that the world is changing, but the Quad will remain the same. And so he reiterated his confidence about this as a grouping lasting beyond his presidency and being part of his legacy, because you will remember this was set up the Quad back in 2004, actually, in the wake of that tsunami. But it really didn't become a leaders level summit until Joe Biden became president and elevated this Quad to a leaders level talk. So it's taken on a whole different level of meaning. Prime Minister Albanese also, in his remarks, said gave his great endorsement and support for this group. He says the power of 4 is greater than the power of each of us acting individually, and so making that point once again, that 4 democracies working together can have a positive impact on the way our region operates to ensure the stability and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely, Kieran, and I suppose it's almost impossible to miss the elephant in the room, so to speak, that, there's other action, massive action politically happening in the United States. Of course, we're only 5 weeks away from an election with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And part of the news cycle this morning is that Kamala Harris has agreed to a second debate on around October 23. Donald Trump says a flat no to that. Would that be, in your view, because he didn't feel he went all that well in the first one against her?
Well, that's possibly the scenario, that he felt that wasn't his best setting, that he's doing better in the rallies and more controlled spaces. But he's not the only one who's controlled in terms of their engagement. Kamala Harris does the same, very much controlled and restricted media engagement from the Democratic nominee. But either one or the other will be at the next Quad when India hosts it next year, if they retain support for it. Now, you know Harris will, because this is Biden's legacy. But will Trump? And that was the key question that I wanted to put to President Biden, in saying, will it last beyond November? He said it will last way beyond. So there's no doubt the President and Prime Minister have spoken already about the implications of Donald Trump winning. They spoke about it yesterday at the residence in Delaware, just down the road from here. But they won't talk about that publicly, what that wargaming was. But they have to look at it as a reality, because right now, that election is a toss of the coin, and Donald Trump could well be sworn in as president once again in January of next year, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely, Kieran. Well, we will talk next hour. I know that the Quad continues. We've heard the opening remarks from President Biden
Look forward to it.
and Mr Albanese. Thank you, Kieran.